Before 2002, the internet was a place you went to hide. You picked a handle and put on an avatar. The entire point was to keep your screen life strictly separated from your physical life. In 2002, Netscape engineer Jonathan Abrams proposed the exact opposite. His system asked for your real face, actual name, and real friends. This animated diagram shows how that early platform operated. You sat at the center of a map that expanded outward, tracing lines to your friends, their friends, and so on, until it hit a hard boundary at exactly 4 degrees of separation. That map relied on a single, extremely flat label. It forced you to file your closest confidants, your boss, and people you had barely met, all under the exact same word, friend. By requiring honest identities and charting specific human connections, the software collapsed the wall between the physical and digital worlds. It turned the concept of social distance into a navigable interface. Early on, this new map was remarkably static. There was no algorithmic feed to scroll through. Instead, users were handed an empty profile, prompting them to learn and inject raw HTML and CSS code to build highly customized, glittering personal pages. The defining feature of these pages was the testimonial. This was a permanent public character reference written by someone in your circle and pinned directly to your profile. These notes operated entirely on reciprocity. You left a testimonial on a page, and that person owed you one in return. They were typed out in heavily compressed, phonetic slang inherited from early cell phone keypads. Your online identity became deeply communal. The physical proof of your character existed entirely in the specific, hand-typed words of the people willing to publicly vouch for you. Users quickly began populating the network with playful, fictional profiles called fakesters. People created accounts for the giant squid, a piece of raw meat, or the magic bus at Burning Man, turning the network into a collaborative art project. Management aggressively fought back. They insisted on real names and deleted these highly connected fictional hubs. That moderation sweep inadvertently removed the network's most creative connectors, leaving invisible structural gaps across the graph. At the exact same time, a mechanical crisis hit. Calculating millions of multi-degree paths in real time completely overwhelmed the site's basic relational database. The hardware seized, throwing up a blunt error message: "Server is too busy." At the absolute peak of its popularity, the platform was punishing its most engaged community members while physically collapsing under the mathematical weight of its own success. As Western users hit a wall of slow load times and endless errors, the social graph migrated. Traffic began surging overwhelmingly across the Pacific, landing specifically in Southeast Asia. In regions where home computers were expensive and rare, digital life happened in public. Users gathered in crowded internet cafes to edit their profiles together, looking over each other's shoulders at shared screens. The platform thrived in the Philippines because the culture was already primed for asynchronous contact. It picked up exactly where cheap text messaging left off, allowing separated families and overseas workers to stay close across oceans. This diagram illustrates the fatal measurement error occurring back in the United States. Western analytics counted one unique IP address as exactly one user, entirely missing the reality of dozens of teenagers logging into 50 different accounts from a single corner cafe computer. During the years the West confidently declared it dead, the platform was load-bearing infrastructure for millions of people. Analysts simply used the wrong ruler to measure it. Years later, researchers at ETH Zurich pulled an archived dataset of the dying site to perform a rigorous mathematical autopsy. They applied a scientific technique called K-core decomposition. By peeling away the loosely connected fringe users, layer by layer, they could isolate and examine the densest structural center of the network. This graph reveals a paradox. The surviving core had a maximum coreness of 304, meaning every user inside it was connected to at least 304 others. On paper, that density made the network far more resilient than the platforms that eventually replaced it. Because early moderation quietly alienated so many key users, that ultra-dense core carried invisible fractures. When a final, poorly executed redesign pushed the platform over the edge, the most connected users left first, detonating the entire network from the inside out in a spreading wave of blackouts. A mathematically indestructible core offers zero protection if the trust and human connective tissue holding it together have already been hollowed out. In 2011, the new corporate owners purged all user data. The photos were gone, but the permanent erasure of the handwritten testimonials destroyed the actual words people had used to define each other. The company pivoted into a faceless gaming portal, quietly selling off its foundational patents for mapping social relationships to Facebook before finally going dark. In 2026, the name quietly reappeared in the Philippines as a completely different kind of app. It launched with no algorithmic feed and small, strictly capped networks. After 2 decades of the internet evolving into an algorithmic machine built for infinite scale, society is circling back to search for the specific thing that very first map achieved and purposefully destroyed: human connection at a human scale.